When I was 16, I took my family pet to the vet. Found out he was terminally ill and never told anyone. I'm the eldest of 4 kids in a family of 6 and growing up. We had a beautiful albino chinchilla named Dusty. Dusty was an awesome little pet to have as a kid. Very sweet, never bit anyone, loved to cuddle and run around digging tunnels in the bedsheets. He had this really big cage in our guest bedroom. That was connected to my room, and every time someone would walk past his cage, he would run to the gate hoping to be taken out. If you opened the gate, he would just hop right into your hand. Anyway, great pet. So about 3 days after I got my driver's license as a 16-year-old, I noticed that one of Dusty's eyes were tearing a little bit, which I hadn't seen happen before. Feeling like a brand new adult. With my new driver's license, I decided to take it upon myself to bring him to the vet and see what was up. So, I put him into a brown paper grocery bag with his favorite blanket, made some air holes, stapled it shut, and strapped him into the passenger seat of my family's van. Fast forward maybe a half hour, and I'm sitting in the vet's office holding Dusty, feeling like the most responsible adult ever. The vet is an exotic animals vet and takes a look at him, then asks to do an x-ray, so she sedates him a little, does the x-ray, hands him back to me, and leaves the room. Adult level 9000 as I sit petting him until he wakes back up. So vet comes back in and sits next to me on the little bench in the checkup room and starts petting him in my lap. She's telling me how wonderful he is and how lucky I am to have such a great little pet, asking me my favorite memories of him, all this. So we are talking, and finally I ask her something like, okay, so how much do chinchilla eye drops cost, because I've got to get going? And she smiles gently, saying something like, I wish eye drops could fix this. She gives me a hug and starts to explain. Dusty was not bred responsibly and had some kind of internal deformity, involving the roots of his teeth, putting pressure on his eyes and brain. This would eventually cause an early death. I couldn't believe it. I remember starting to cry and putting Dusty back in his grocery bag with his blanket and asking if the vet had a stapler I could use to close it again. I paid cash to the receptionist from my babysitting money and got into my car crying all the way home. When I got home, I sat in the car for a while in the garage, trying to gather myself as Dusty chewed on his bag. Looking back, I'm not really sure why. But in the car, I decided not to tell my family the news. The vet said Dusty wasn't in pain despite his tearing eye, and we wouldn't have to put him down. She didn't know how long exactly he had left, but guessed maybe a year. I guess I figured I didn't want my family to be sad every time they played with him or passed by his cage, knowing his time was limited. I wanted the rest of his little life to be normal. Eventually, I brought him back in the house and put him in his cage. I went later that day to Petco and bought rodent eye drops as a cover-up and proudly told my family that night how I brought Dusty to the vet to check his eye and lied, saying, the doctor gave me eye drops and told me eye irritation is common in chinchillas. Dusty lived 3 more years after that. 2 years longer than the vet had expected. He passed away just shy of his 10th birthday. On the morning he passed, I told my dad what had actually happened at the vet. He told me I was so much more of an adult than I knew.
When I get spam calls, I tell them this is my work phone and to call me on my personal phone. I give them the phone number of an old friend who screwed me over big time. As the title says, I get spam calls all the time. I am very polite and say that I'm sorry, but this is my work phone and I'm interested in talking with them, but I can only talk on my personal phone. The guy's phone number who I give seriously screwed me a couple years back after being lifelong best friends. Fuck that guy. Welcome to spam call hell. Okay, explanation time. So I've known this dude my whole life. We were best friends for 16 years. For probably the past 5-ish years before we parted ways, we dreamed of running a business together. He moves to another part of the state about 5 hours away. And one night he calls me up and says he found a business for us to run together. The time had come. He's found what seems like a perfect opportunity. So I pack up my bags, get my now wife then girlfriend on board, and move to an area where we know no one and I have no job opportunities. But it was my dream, so why not? Literally sign a lease. Moved my stuff into a house we're sharing. The day after I move in, he tells me he's been working on another business and it's taking off, and tells me without warning he's not doing business with me. It really hurt me, but he was my best friend. So I moved on and tried to make a life for myself in this strange place. Over the next couple years, he starts hanging out with a new crowd, doing drugs, weed, and cocaine, and starts saying pretty rude things to me about how I've done nothing with my life and I'm becoming a real loser. I'm infuriated, but I didn't let him know that. Fast forward a few months. I set up a hard-to-plan weekend with all my closest friends to come to our house, and at the end I was to propose to my now wife. Well, the night of the big engagement, she said yes. I'm over the moon. What does he do? Invites all these new friends over and they crash the party, do drugs in the bathroom, eat the food that I made from scratch for the night and only had enough for my friends. Then 20 minutes after all the food is gone and I have a new fiancé, he decides that they're gonna go to a bar and ditches me with the mess and lack of food. Didn't tell him. I was furious. Instead, I pretended everything was okay, letting him think he'd be my best man in the wedding. Then once our shared lease was up, I moved out into a new place with my fiancé. Again, I let him think he was still in the wedding. I sent out invites and he doesn't get his wonder why. And I say it should be in the mail. But as the wedding gets closer, I talk to him less and less. Finally, I just cut him off cold turkey. No explanation. Complete and total radio silence. I did this because I wanted him to go the rest of his life wondering what happened and why I abandoned him. He didn't deserve closure. But I'm still mad. Thus why I do this relatively harmless piece of revenge. Fuck him. Clarification, there was plenty of other stuff he did that I called him out on. But I always got those apologies that go, yay, that's my bad. But you did this, so I'm not in the wrong. So you're bad. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. You won't regret it, trust me. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video and don't forget to hit the bell. Thanks to everyone who will do it. See you in the next video, guys, with so many interesting stories.